You know the name Corona. It's not just a beer, right? It's a global icon. It's that feeling of sun and sand in a bottle. But what if the company behind it, Grupo Modelo, decided to bet the farm on an idea so big it could either redefine their future or wreck the very brand that made them famous? Well, today, we're going to put on our consultant hats and break down this exact high stakes problem. Should a beer giant get into the food business? So let's be clear about what we're talking about here. This isn't just about launching a new flavor. No, this is a massive leap. We're talking about taking the Corona brand from the bar, from the beach cooler, and putting it right into your kitchen pantry, your freezer. This is about stretching a world-famous drink brand into a totally different world, high-end Mexican food. And this right here is the question. This is the exact problem a CEO would slide across the table. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Is this a good idea? But to answer that, you have to untangle this incredible knot of market forces, operational nightmares, and massive brand risk. Our whole deep dive today is about cracking this one multi-billion-dollar question. Okay, so you don't answer a question this huge with a gut feeling. In consulting, structure is everything. It's non-negotiable. You have to break the problem down into logical, bite-sized pieces. So we're going to tackle this from the outside in. First, we'll look at the market itself. Then, and only then, will we turn the microscope on Grupo Modelo and see if they've actually got what it takes. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the big conundrum. Analyze the US market, weigh the different ways they could do this, drill into what it would actually take to execute, and then we'll land on a final recommendation. Let's get into it. First things first, before we even talk about Corona's brand or their marketing muscle, we have to answer a fundamental question. Is the US Mexican food market even a good place to be? Is this a growing, exciting sandbox to play in, or is it a brutal, shrinking battlefield? The very first number that should make you sit up and pay attention is the market size. $2.4 billion. And let's be real, that is not a small, niche market. That's a huge prize. Even grabbing a tiny sliver of that pie would mean a massive new business for a company like Grupo Modelo. But you know, a big market is one thing. A growing market? That's the real story. And this one is growing at a really healthy 6% a year. Now, why does that matter so much? Well, think about it. When the whole pie is getting bigger, you don't have to get into a bloody fight to steal someone else's slice. You can just grab a piece of the new growth, which is a much, much smarter way to enter a market. So who's already in this sandbox? Well, it's what we'd call fragmented. There's no single 800-pound gorilla that owns the space. Instead, you've got a bunch of smaller specialists, local players, and those sneaky private label brands from the supermarkets. Now, this is a classic double-edged sword. On one hand, it's great, no big monster to slay. But on the other hand, it means you're fighting a war on 1,000 fronts, and that can be really tough. Okay, quick recap. The market looks pretty attractive. It's big, it's growing, and it's wide open, so the external view gets a thumbs up. Now we pivot. We look inward. Does a beer company, Grupo Modelo, really have the right to win here? Do they have the DNA to actually pull this off? And this is where the whole debate really comes to life. I mean, look at the pros. The Corona brand is an absolute powerhouse. They have a world-class marketing team. There are obvious wins with shipping and distribution, but the cons are just as heavy. This isn't what they do. It would cost a fortune. And then there's the big one, the one that should keep the CEO up at night. What if it fails and damages the beer brand forever? That's a risk you just can't ignore. So if they do decide to take the plunge, how would they even do it? Well, there are really three main doors into the market. Door number one, they could just buy an existing food company. That gets you in the game overnight, but integrating two different companies is messy and super risky. Door number two, they could team up with an expert in a joint venture. That's way cheaper, but it means you give up a ton of control. Or door number three, start from scratch. Build it all yourself. You get total control, but man, it costs the most and takes the longest. Now, for the rest of this deep dive, we're going to assume they pick the boldest, most difficult option, starting completely from scratch. Why? Because it forces us to really think through all the tough, nitty-gritty details of making this happen. You know, having a strategy on a PowerPoint slide is the easy part. Actually making it happen in the real world, that's a whole different beast. So now we move from the why to the how. We're talking about the tough questions, manufacturing, supply chains, sales, that will make or break this entire venture. So first big headache, where on earth do you build the factory? You could build in the US. That gives you a nice made in the USA feel, and logistics are way simpler. But it's going to cost you a lot. Or you could build in Mexico. Costs are much lower, but now you've got to deal with shipping everything across the border, and you might have to fight the perception that it's lower quality. It really comes down to this. Are you optimizing for perception or for cost? Next up, how do you launch this thing? You absolutely do not try to go nationwide on day one. That's a recipe for disaster. The smart play is to do it in phases. First, you start small. You test things out, work out the kinks. Second, and this is the genius part, you launch only in the cities where Corona beer is already super popular. You go where your fans are. And third, you make it a no-brainer for shoppers by putting the Corona salsa right next to the Corona beer in the grocery store. It's a powerful combination. All right, we've done the work. We've looked at the market, the company's strengths and weaknesses, and we've even mapped out a launch plan. All the pieces are on the board. It's time to make the call. And here's a little secret from the world of consulting. The goal isn't always to find the one right answer. The goal is to build an absolutely rock-solid, data-driven argument for the answer you choose. So let's make the yes case. Let's argue to go for it. The logic is compelling. You have a huge, growing market that's basically waiting for a big, exciting brand to come in and shake things up. And what brand is bigger or more exciting than Corona? They could leverage that incredible name recognition and their marketing machine to build a whole new billion-dollar business. It's a home run waiting to happen. But then, you have to make the no case. And honestly, it's just as strong. This would be a massive distraction from what they do best, selling beer. The investment is gigantic, with zero guarantee of a payoff. They're rookies in the food business, which is a completely different animal. And that nightmare scenario is always lurking. If this fails, it could poison the Corona brand for good. So there you have it, the full breakdown. The pros, the cons, the risks, the rewards. We've structured the problem, we've looked at the data, and we've laid out both sides of the argument. So now, I'm turning it over to you. You're the consultant in the room. The CEO is looking right at you. What's your call? Is it a go or a no-go? The decision is yours.